I woke up in the ER twice because of my stepdaughter. First she poisoned me, then pushed me downstairs. Her friend showed me texts saying, it was the perfect plan to show Dad her true colors. I find myself in a very tough spot with my husband's daughter, and I really need some outside perspectives. What started as tensions with my stepdaughter has escalated to dangerous situations, including her deliberately exposing me to a severe allergen and physically attacking me. Here's what happened. I'm Catherine, 45F, and I recently married Paul, 50M, after dating for about 3 years. Paul has a daughter, Ashley, 18F, from his previous marriage. His wife Rachel passed away from lung cancer when Ashley was 10 years old. Paul has raised Ashley on his own for the past 8 years, and they developed an extremely close relationship during this difficult time. I met Paul at our neighborhood recreation center where we both volunteered. I helped with after-school reading programs for kids, and Paul ran youth soccer clinics. We kept running into each other in the hallways and parking lot, and eventually started chatting. What drew me to Paul was his thoughtfulness and the way he listened when people spoke to him. One evening when I was struggling with a box of books, Paul offered to help me carry them to my car. We ended up talking for a long time about our volunteer work, and he mentioned he started volunteering to show Ashley the importance of giving back to the community. That showed me what kind of parent he was. After several weeks of these casual meetings, Paul asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. I hesitated because I hadn't dated seriously in years after my divorce. My ex-husband Greg and I were college sweethearts who married young. Over time, Greg became completely absorbed in his accounting career, working longer and longer hours. I spent many nights alone while he networked at business dinners. When I brought up my concerns, he would say I was being needy. We grew apart, and then about 7 years ago, I discovered he'd been having an affair with a colleague for almost a year. The divorce was messy and painful, and afterward, I stayed single, focusing on my job as a high school English teacher and my volunteer work. But Paul was different from anyone I'd met before. He was patient and understanding, never pushing me to move faster than I was comfortable with. Our first coffee date turned into a 3-hour conversation. We discovered we both loved hiking, historical documentaries, and cooking. After that, we started dating regularly. From the beginning, I understood that Ashley was Paul's top priority, and I respected that. When Paul mentioned he wanted me to meet Ashley, I felt nervous but hopeful. I bought her a book that Paul said was by her favorite author, hoping it would be a nice icebreaker. When we met for dinner at their house, Ashley was polite but distant. She barely looked at me when I handed her the book, mumbled, "Thanks," and set it aside immediately. Throughout dinner, she answered my questions with one-word responses and stared at her plate. Paul tried to keep the conversation going, but Ashley's discomfort was obvious. I tried not to take her reaction personally. I knew she was still processing her mother's death, and now had to deal with her father dating someone new. I gave her space and tried different ways to connect with her over the next few months. I offered to help her prepare for a history exam. I teach history, but she told me she didn't need help from someone who probably didn't understand current teaching methods. When I suggested we all go hiking together at a nearby state park, Ashley agreed but walked far ahead of us on the trail, put in earbuds when we stopped for lunch, and refused to engage in any conversation. As Paul and I became more serious, Ashley's behavior toward me worsened. She started making comments about my clothes looking too young for my age. When I cooked dinner for the 3 of us, she would take one bite, push the food around on her plate, and later order takeout for herself. She frequently brought up memories with her mom when I was present, then looked at me as if challenging me to respond. For Ashley's 16th birthday, I spent hours organizing a surprise party. I invited her friends, decorated the house, and baked her favorite chocolate cake. When she arrived home and saw everything, she looked right past me to Paul and asked why he let me do this when he knew she hated surprises. She went straight to her room and refused to come down for the party. Her friends arrived, confused about what was happening, and Paul had to explain that Ashley wasn't feeling well. I spent the evening cleaning up decorations while fighting back tears. I tried talking to Paul about Ashley's behavior several times. He would acknowledge that she was being rude, but explain that she was struggling with changes and needed more time to adjust. He promised things would improve, but they only got worse. After 2 years together, Paul proposed during a weekend trip to a lakeside cabin. It was exactly what I would have wanted, just the 2 of us surrounded by nature. I said yes immediately, and for a few days, we were overjoyed. Then we told Ashley. She exploded. She screamed at Paul that he was betraying her mother's memory. She accused me of manipulating him and trying to replace her mom. She threatened to cut off contact with him if we got married. Paul was devastated but stood his ground. He tried to explain that his love for her mother would never change, and that I wasn't trying to replace anyone. Ashley refused to listen and locked herself in her room for 2 days. In the months leading up to our wedding, Ashley did everything she could to create problems. She would forget to tell Paul when I called, leading him to worry when he couldn't reach me. She told Paul's parents that I had made disrespectful comments about Rachel, completely untrue, causing them to treat me coldly until Paul cleared things up. She even created a fake social media account and sent me messages calling me old and ugly, saying Paul would eventually leave me. When confronted with evidence it was her, she first denied it, then shrugged and said it was just a joke. Paul suggested family counseling, but Ashley sat silently during sessions or gave one-word answers until the therapist couldn't make any progress. I continued trying to reach out to Ashley, inviting her shopping, buying her little gifts I thought she might like, but she rejected every attempt. I later found some of the gifts in the trash. Throughout all this, Paul struggled terribly. Late at night, he would express his worries about failing both as a father and as a partner to me. He felt pulled in two directions and didn't know how to fix the situation. Our wedding day arrived, and Ashley refused to attend. We left an empty seat for her at the ceremony, hoping she might change her mind at the last minute, but she never showed up. The ceremony was beautiful, but I noticed Paul kept glancing at that empty chair. That evening, he admitted how much her absence had hurt him, though he tried to focus on our happiness. After the wedding, Paul suggested that we bring Ashley on our honeymoon to Morocco. He thought a trip to an exciting new place might help us bond as a family. While I had been looking forward to romantic time alone with my new husband, I agreed because it clearly meant so much to him. We arranged for Ashley to have her own room on a different floor of the hotel to give us privacy. The flight was uncomfortable, with Ashley completely ignoring me. When we arrived at the hotel, she immediately went to her room, saying she was tired from the journey. The next day, we did some sightseeing together. Ashley kept to herself but was at least civil. That evening at dinner, she spoke a little more, even asking me one or two questions about my teaching job. I went to bed feeling hopeful that maybe the trip was working. The next morning, Ashley knocked on our door while Paul was still asleep. She suggested that she and I go get breakfast together. I was surprised but thrilled that she wanted to spend time with just me, so I agreed immediately. We found a small cafe near the hotel that served traditional Moroccan breakfast foods. Ashley insisted on ordering for both of us, saying she had researched local specialties. She ordered a pastry with ice cream and chocolate for me, saying it was a local delicacy. Still sleepy and completely caught off guard by Ashley's sudden friendliness, I didn't think to ask about ingredients. I took a large bite of the dessert and immediately felt my throat start to close up. I have a severe peanut allergy, which both Paul and Ashley knew well. As I struggled to breathe, I realized the pastry contained peanut butter. I managed to gasp that I needed help before collapsing. I woke up in a Moroccan emergency room with Paul holding my hand. The doctor said I had experienced anaphylactic shock and was lucky to have received treatment quickly. While I was unconscious, Paul had discovered that Ashley had specifically requested peanut butter in the dessert, knowing about my allergy. The staff at the cafe were horrified when they learned what happened, explaining they had no idea about my allergy. Paul confronted Ashley and made 3 decisions. He sent her home from the honeymoon immediately, cut her off financially except for her college tuition, and told her that her behavior was completely unacceptable. I felt terrible seeing the pain in both of their faces, but I was also relieved that Paul finally recognized how serious the situation had become. The rest of our honeymoon was subdued. We tried to enjoy the markets of Marrakesh and a day trip to the Atlas Mountains, but the incident cast a shadow over everything. We spent much of our time discussing what had happened and what to do next. Paul was attentive and caring, but clearly struggling with anger and grief. When we returned home, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Ashley was still living with us until she started college in a few weeks. She barely spoke and spent most of her time in her room, coming out only for meals. She showed no remorse for what happened in Morocco and seemed angrier than before. I overheard her on the phone telling a friend that I had ruined everything and that Paul had chosen me over her. Paul tried multiple times to talk with her, but she either shut down or accused him of forgetting her mother and trying to erase their past. He suggested therapy again, but Ashley refused, saying there was no point since she'd be leaving for college soon. Paul and I started couples counseling to help us cope with the situation. Living in that environment was exhausting. I started spending more time at work or out of the house just to avoid the tension. I developed anxiety about food, checking ingredients obsessively and having a panic attack in a restaurant last week when I couldn't confirm if my meal was peanut-free. Last night, everything came to a head. I was coming down the stairs and heard Paul and Ashley arguing loudly in the living room. Ashley was yelling that I had ruined her life, calling me horrible names, and accusing Paul of loving me more than her and forgetting her mother. Her voice was getting increasingly frantic. I paused on the stairs, not wanting to make things worse by interrupting. Then they noticed me. Ashley's face contorted with rage. Before I could react, she rushed toward me and shoved me hard. I lost my balance and fell backward down the stairs. The last thing I remember is a sharp pain in my head before everything went black. I woke up in the emergency room again. The doctor said I had a concussion and severe bruising, but fortunately no broken bones. They kept me overnight for observation. Paul told me that after I fell, he called an ambulance immediately. While waiting for it to arrive, he told Ashley to pack her things and leave the house. He said he couldn't have her there if she was going to be physically violent. I assume she's staying with Paul's parents now. I'm being discharged tomorrow, and I don't know what happens next. Part of me feels terrible that it came to this. I never wanted to cause a rift between Paul and Ashley. But another part of me is relieved that I won't have to live in fear in my own home. The thought of going back to that house with Ashley there was terrifying. Paul and I have barely had time to talk about everything since he's been focused on making sure I'm okay. I don't know how to move forward from here. Is there any way to salvage the relationship with Ashley, or do we need to accept that estrangement might be necessary? How do I support Paul through the pain of being estranged from his daughter? And how do I deal with my own complicated feelings toward Ashley after what she's done? Any advice would be deeply appreciated. Thank you for giving me a place to talk about this difficult situation. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments on my original post. Reading your advice helped me think through this complicated situation. The past 3 weeks have been a roller coaster. After being discharged from the hospital with a concussion, I spent the first week mostly resting at home. Paul took time off work to care for me, which I appreciated but also felt guilty about. He was clearly torn up about what happened with Ashley, checking his phone constantly but never receiving any messages from her. On my 3rd day home, Paul's parents came to visit. I was nervous about seeing them, wondering if they blamed me for the conflict with Ashley. To my surprise, they were supportive and apologetic. They explained that Ashley was staying with them but had told a very different version of events. According to her, I had been taunting her about replacing her mother, and she only pushed me because I threatened to make Paul cut her off completely. When Paul told them what really happened, including the Morocco incident which Ashley had never mentioned to them, they were shocked. Paul's father Bernard told us that they loved Ashley but wouldn't tolerate lying and violence. They made it clear to her that she could stay with them until college started, but only if she agreed to therapy. Ashley reluctantly agreed, though according to Bernard, she's been minimally cooperative in the sessions. 10 days after my fall, Paul received a text from Ashley asking to meet him alone at a coffee shop. He was torn about going, worried about leaving me alone while I was still recovering, but I encouraged him to take this opportunity to talk with her. When Paul returned 3 hours later, he looked drained. He said Ashley had apologized for pushing me down the stairs but maintained that I was trying to come between her and her father. When Paul brought up the Morocco incident, she claimed she didn't realize how severe my peanut allergy was and thought I would just get a mild reaction. Paul didn't believe her. The most disturbing part came when Ashley showed Paul a box of her mother's belongings that she'd kept hidden in her closet. Inside were Rachel's journals from when she was sick, including entries where she expressed fears about Paul remarrying after her death and her child being forgotten. Ashley had found these journals when she was 15 and had been reading them regularly ever since. Paul was stunned. He had no idea these journals existed. He asked to take them home to read, but Ashley refused. This revelation helped explain some of Ashley's behavior, but it didn't excuse it. Paul tried to explain that honoring Rachel's memory didn't mean he had to remain alone forever, and that I had never tried to replace her mother. Ashley listened but didn't seem convinced. The meeting ended with no real resolution, just an agreement to talk again before she left for college in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I received an unexpected message from Ashley's best friend Zoe. She asked if we could meet, saying there were things I should know. Paul was hesitant, worried it might be some kind of trap, but I decided to meet her at a public cafe. Zoe revealed that Ashley had been planning to sabotage our relationship for months. She showed me text messages where Ashley bragged about the peanut incident in Morocco, calling it a perfect plan to show Paul my true colors when I got upset about it. There were also messages discussing how to get Paul to cancel the wedding, including suggestions to plant doubts about my fidelity. Zoe said she'd tried to talk Ashley out of these schemes but had been unsuccessful. She finally decided to come forward because she was scared Ashley might do something even more dangerous. I thanked Zoe for her honesty and asked why she decided to tell me this now. She admitted she'd been enabling Ashley's behavior because she felt sorry for her losing her mom, but the stair incident crossed a line. She also revealed that Ashley had been seeing a therapist briefly last year without Paul's knowledge, but stopped going because the therapist suggested she might have some unresolved grief issues regarding her mother's death. When I told Paul about my meeting with Zoe and showed him the text messages, he was devastated. He called his parents to warn them about Ashley's manipulative behavior and asked them to keep a closer eye on her. That night, Paul cried like I'd never seen before. He blamed himself for not recognizing the extent of Ashley's issues and for not getting her proper help sooner. The next day, Paul made an appointment with a family therapist who specializes in grief counseling. He went alone for the first session to discuss the situation and get advice. The therapist suggested that Ashley needs intensive therapy to address her unresolved grief, which has manifested as hatred toward me as a perceived replacement for her mother. She also warned that repairing the relationship would take time and might not be possible until Ashley was ready to confront her feelings honestly. Paul tried to convince Ashley to join him for therapy, but she refused. She's scheduled to leave for college next week, and plans to stay with Paul's parents until then. Yesterday, we had a long talk about our future. Paul asked if I still wanted to be married to him given all the drama with Ashley. I told him that I committed to this marriage knowing it wouldn't be easy, and I wasn't giving up. We agreed that Paul would maintain contact with Ashley while she's at college, but with clear boundaries. He would not tolerate any more lies or manipulation, and he made it clear that if she wanted financial support beyond tuition, she would need to attend therapy. For my own safety and mental health, I've decided not to have direct contact with Ashley for now. Paul understands and supports this decision, though he hopes someday reconciliation might be possible. As for me, I'm still processing everything that's happened. The concussion symptoms are mostly gone, but I jump at sudden noises and have trouble sleeping. Paul suggested I try therapy too, and I've made an appointment for next week. My school year starts soon, and focusing on teaching might provide a welcome distraction from the family drama. I'll update again when there are significant developments. For now, Paul and I are taking things one day at a time, trying to build our life together despite the difficult circumstances. Update 2. It's been about 4 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. Ashley started college in August. She chose a school about 3 hours away from us, living in the dorms. Paul has been driving to visit her once a month, always meeting on campus or at restaurants. They talk on the phone weekly, with Paul maintaining the boundaries we discussed. These conversations remain tense but civil according to Paul. In September, something unexpected happened. I received an email from Rachel's sister, Laura. We had met briefly at our wedding, though she and Paul weren't particularly close. Laura explained that she had heard about the conflicts with Ashley from Paul's parents and wanted to offer her perspective. We met for coffee while Paul was at work. Laura brought old photo albums and videos of Rachel that I had never seen. She talked about her sister's illness and how Rachel had worried about Paul and Ashley's future. Contrary to what Ashley believed, Rachel had actually told Laura that she hoped Paul would find happiness again after she was gone. Laura admitted she had distanced herself after Rachel's death because it was too painful, but now regretted not being more present for Ashley. Laura offered to speak with Ashley about her mother's actual wishes. She believed Ashley had constructed a narrative based on fragments of overheard conversations and her own fears. I was touched by Laura's kindness and told her I would discuss it with Paul. When I showed Paul the videos and photos Laura had shared, he became emotional. There was footage of Rachel specifically talking about her hopes for Paul's future, saying she wanted him to find love again and that any woman who loved him and Ashley would have her blessing. Paul hadn't known this recording existed. He immediately called Laura and thanked her for coming forward. Paul, Laura, and Ashley met for dinner the following weekend. Paul later told me that Ashley initially refused to watch the videos, accusing Laura of making things up to help me. But when Laura shared specific memories and details about Rachel that only a sister would know, Ashley became more receptive. They ended up talking for hours, with Ashley finally watching some of the footage of her mother. According to Paul, Ashley cried throughout much of the videos. Seeing her mother lucid and directly addressing the possibility of Paul remarrying seemed to shake something loose in her. For the first time, she admitted that maybe she had misinterpreted some things. She agreed to start seeing the campus therapist regularly. In October, Ashley's roommate called Paul because Ashley had stopped attending classes and barely left their dorm room. Paul drove to the college immediately and found Ashley in the midst of what appeared to be a depressive episode. He brought her home for a week, staying with her at his parents' house while she recuperated. During this time, they had several long conversations about Rachel, their grief, and their relationship. Ashley started seeing a grief counselor twice weekly after returning to school. Her therapist suggested a family session, and Paul participated via video call. I was not included, which felt appropriate given the circumstances. Last month, I received a letter from Ashley. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was the first direct communication from her that wasn't hostile. She wrote that her therapist had helped her recognize that she had transferred all her anger about her mother's death onto me. She acknowledged that her behavior had been harmful and said she was working on her issues. She didn't directly address the Morocco incident or pushing me down the stairs, but it felt like a first step. Paul was encouraged by this development but cautioned me not to expect too much too soon. The therapist had told him that Ashley was making progress but still had deep-seated issues to work through. For Thanksgiving, Ashley stayed with Paul's parents rather than coming to our house. Paul spent part of the day there and part with me. It wasn't ideal, but it was a workable compromise. Ashley and I did not interact directly. As for my own well-being, I've been seeing a therapist regularly. We've been discussing my anxiety around food and trust issues that have emerged from this situation. I've also connected with a support group for blended families, which has been helpful in gaining perspective. Paul and I are in a better place now. The couples counseling has given us tools to communicate more effectively, especially when it comes to Ashley. I still don't feel safe being around her, but I'm open to the possibility of reconciliation if she continues to make progress in therapy and takes full responsibility for her actions. There's still a long road ahead, but for the first time in a while, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of our family. Update 3. It's been nearly a year since Ashley pushed me down the stairs, and I wanted to provide a final update on our situation. Ashley completed her freshman year of college with decent grades despite her emotional struggles. She continued therapy throughout the year and, according to her therapist, has made significant progress in processing her grief and anger. She spent the summer interning in another city, which gave everyone some breathing room. In April, Ashley reached out and asked if we could meet with a mediator present. After discussing it with my therapist and Paul, I agreed. We met at the mediator's office with both our therapists joining us. For the first time, Ashley gave me a complete apology. She acknowledged that she had intentionally put peanut butter in my food in Morocco, knowing it could cause a severe reaction. She admitted she had wanted to hurt me because she viewed me as a threat to her relationship with her father and her mother's memory. She also took full responsibility for pushing me down the stairs, saying there was no excuse for physical violence. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, I told her how her actions had affected me, the physical injuries, the anxiety about food, the fear in my own home. I explained that while I understood her grief, it didn't justify trying to harm me. The mediator helped keep the conversation productive when emotions ran high. By the end of the session, we agreed on a path forward. Ashley would continue therapy, and we would gradually attempt to rebuild a relationship through structured, mediated interactions. She understood that trust would take a long time to rebuild, if ever. Over the summer, we had 3 more mediated sessions. Each one became slightly less tense than the one before. Ashley shared more about finding her mother's journals and how reading Rachel's fears had shaped her perception of me. She acknowledged that she had been selectively focusing on entries written when Rachel was scared and in pain, ignoring the ones where she expressed hope for Paul's future happiness. In July, Ashley and I met for lunch without a mediator, though in a public place. It was awkward but civil. We talked mostly about her college experiences and my teaching job, avoiding the heavier topics we addressed in mediation. It was the first time we've been able to have something resembling a normal conversation. Last month, Ashley came to our house for dinner. It was her first time in our home since the stair incident. Paul was nervous and tried too hard to make everything perfect. I found myself watching Ashley's every move around the food, which she noticed and addressed directly. She told me she understood my caution and promised she would never tamper with my food again. She ate everything I prepared without comment. As for my relationship with Paul, we've emerged stronger through this ordeal. The first 6 months were incredibly difficult, with Paul torn between his love for me and his daughter. There were nights he couldn't sleep, days he could barely function at work. The couple's counseling helped us navigate those tough times. We've established clear boundaries with Ashley. She's welcome in our home as long as she remains respectful. Paul maintains his separate relationship with her, which no longer causes tension between us. We've learned to communicate better about our expectations and fears. I don't know if Ashley and I will ever have a close relationship. Too much has happened for me to fully trust her, and she still struggles sometimes with my place in her father's life. But we've reached a point where we can be in the same room without hostility, which is more than I expected a year ago. For anyone in a similar situation, I would offer this advice: establish firm boundaries immediately, get professional help for everyone involved, and recognize that healing takes time. Not every blended family situation can be resolved, but with work and willingness from all parties, improvement is possible. Paul, Ashley, and I aren't a perfect family, and we may never be. But we're learning to coexist in a way that allows each of us to move forward with our lives. That's enough for now. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2: My boyfriend of 5 years proposed, but I discovered his secret Instagram account where he was sexting multiple women. I confronted him and he tried to blame me for invading his privacy. I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but I need advice. I'm Fiona, 28F, and I've been with my boyfriend Maurice, 30M, for 5 years. We met at my best friend's wedding where Maurice was the best man. I was a bridesmaid, and we hit it off immediately during the rehearsal dinner. He made me laugh with his terrible dance moves and charmed me with his knowledge of obscure movie trivia. By the time the wedding rolled around, we were inseparable. Our relationship moved quickly after that. Within 6 months, we were talking about moving in together. I was hesitant at first because I'd been burned before. My last serious relationship ended when I caught my ex cheating with his coworker. But Maurice was different, or so I thought. He was attentive, caring, and always seemed to put our relationship first. We moved in together after a year of dating. At first, everything was perfect. We'd cook dinner together, binge-watch TV shows, and spend lazy Sundays exploring our city. Maurice even surprised me with a puppy for our first anniversary of living together. We named him Buddy, and he quickly became an integral part of our little family. About 2 years into our relationship, I started noticing changes in Maurice's behavior. It was subtle at first. He'd be on his phone more often, quickly locking the screen when I walked into the room. He started working late more frequently, claiming he was trying to impress his new boss. I wanted to believe him, but something felt off. One night, while Maurice was in the shower, I checked his phone. I know it wasn't right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. What I found broke my heart. He had been texting his ex-girlfriend, Liberty, 29F, for months. The messages were flirty and inappropriate, with Maurice telling her how much he missed her and how he couldn't stop thinking about her. When I confronted Maurice, he broke down and admitted that he had been emotionally cheating on me with Liberty. He swore it never got physical, but the damage was done. I was devastated, but I loved him, so I decided to give him another chance. We went to couples counseling and worked on rebuilding trust. During our counseling sessions, Maurice revealed that he had commitment issues stemming from his parents' messy divorce when he was a teenager. His father had multiple affairs, and Maurice had witnessed the fallout firsthand. He said he was afraid of turning into his father, which led him to self-sabotage our relationship. While I sympathized with his past, I made it clear that it wasn't an excuse for his behavior. Things improved for a while. Maurice became more open with his phone and even gave me his passwords as a sign of trust. We started having weekly date nights and even talked about our future together. I thought we had finally overcome our issues. But about a year later, I caught Maurice sexting with a coworker, Emma, 25F. This time, I was ready to leave, but Maurice begged me to stay. He promised to change and even quit his job to prove his commitment to our relationship. He said Emma had been pursuing him for months and that he had momentarily given in to temptation but regretted it immediately. Against my better judgment, I agreed to give him one last chance. Maurice started seeing a therapist individually to work on his issues, and we continued our couples counseling. He got a new job at a different company and seemed committed to making our relationship work. For the next 2 years, things were good. We took a couple of vacations together, including a memorable trip to Italy where we explored Rome and the Amalfi Coast. Maurice was attentive and loving, and I started to believe that maybe we had finally moved past our issues. Fast forward to last month. Maurice proposed to me on our 5th anniversary. He planned an elaborate surprise, recreating our first date at the little Italian restaurant where we had dinner after the wedding where we met. He even had my best friend and her husband there to celebrate with us. It was a beautiful moment, and I said yes, thinking we had finally overcome our past issues. But just last week, my world came crashing down again. I was using Maurice's laptop to check our joint bank account when I noticed a notification pop up from Instagram. Curious, I clicked on it, only to discover that Maurice has been maintaining a secret Instagram account where he's been messaging multiple women, sending them flirty messages and even explicit photos. I'm heartbroken and angry. I feel like a fool for believing Maurice could change. I haven't confronted him yet because I'm not sure how to approach this. Part of me wants to pack my bags and leave without a word, but another part feels like I deserve an explanation. To make matters worse, we're supposed to have an engagement party next month. All our friends and family are excited, and I feel trapped. My parents, who have been married for 35 years, are thrilled about the engagement. They've always loved Maurice and even joked about when we'd finally tie the knot. The thought of telling them about this latest betrayal makes me feel physically ill. I've always been close to my younger sister, Mia, 24F, but I haven't told her about this latest development. She's been so happy about my engagement, even offering to help plan the wedding. Mia has always looked up to me, and I've tried to be a good role model for her, especially after our parents went through a rough patch when we were teenagers. They almost divorced when I was 16 and Mia was 12, but they worked through their issues. I've always tried to protect Mia from relationship drama, not wanting her to become cynical about love. Looking back, I realized there were red flags from the beginning. Maurice would often comment on other women's appearances, even when I was around. He had a habit of staying in touch with his exes, claiming they were just friends. I brushed these things off, thinking I was being insecure. I remember one incident early in our relationship when we ran into his ex at a bar. Maurice spent most of the night talking to her, leaving me feeling like a third wheel. When I brought it up later, he accused me of being jealous and controlling. I've invested so much time and energy into this relationship, and the thought of starting over at 28 terrifies me. Most of my friends are married or in long-term relationships, and I feel like I'm back at square one. My best friend, the one whose wedding is where I met Maurice, just announced she's pregnant with her second child. The thought of attending baby showers and weddings alone fills me with dread. I need advice on how to handle this situation. Should I confront Maurice? Should I call off the engagement? How do I tell my family and friends? I feel lost and don't know where to turn. Part of me still loves Maurice and wants to believe he can change, but I'm not sure I have it in me to give him another chance. The trust feels irreparably broken. Update 1. It's been a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your words gave me the strength to confront Maurice and make some tough decisions. The day after I made my post, I decided to confront Maurice about his secret Instagram account. I waited until he came home from work and asked him to sit down for a serious talk. At first, he tried to act like everything was normal, asking about my day and talking about dinner plans. I cut him off and told him I knew about the Instagram account and the messages he'd been sending to other women. Maurice's reaction was not what I expected. Instead of denying it or apologizing, he got angry. He accused me of invading his privacy and said I was being controlling. He even had the audacity to say that what he did wasn't cheating because it was just online flirting. I was shocked by his response and realized at that moment that I didn't recognize the person I had agreed to marry. As we argued, more truths came to light. Maurice admitted that he had been struggling with the idea of commitment ever since he proposed. He said he loved me but wasn't sure if he was ready for marriage. He tried to justify his actions by saying he was just trying to see if he still had it with other women. His words felt like a slap in the face after everything we'd been through. I told Maurice that I was calling off the engagement and ending our relationship. He tried to backtrack, suddenly apologizing and promising to change, but I'd heard it all before. I told him I needed him to move out of our apartment within a week. The next few days were a blur. I had to call our families and friends to cancel the engagement party. It was embarrassing and painful, but I knew it was necessary. My parents were shocked and disappointed. My mom kept asking if we could work things out, not fully understanding the extent of Maurice's betrayal. My dad, on the other hand, was furious. He wanted to confront Maurice himself, but I managed to talk him out of it. Most of our friends were supportive, but a few mutual friends suggested I was overreacting. One even said, "All men do this kind of thing online." Their comments made me question my decision briefly, but deep down, I knew I was doing the right thing. Telling my sister Mia was the hardest part. I finally opened up to her about everything that had happened over the years with Maurice. She was furious at first, not just at Maurice but at me for not confiding in her sooner. She cried, saying she felt like she had failed as a sister by not noticing my pain. After her initial anger subsided, she became my biggest supporter. She helped me pack up Maurice's things and even stayed with me for a few days to make sure I was okay. During this time, I also had to figure out what to do about our dog, Buddy. Maurice and I had raised him together for the past 3 years, and the thought of losing him on top of everything else was heartbreaking. After much discussion and a few heated arguments, we agreed that Buddy would stay with me, but Maurice would get visitation rights. Maurice moved out a week later, but the drama didn't end there. He started telling our mutual friends that I had cheated on him, which is completely false. He claimed that I had been talking to an ex-boyfriend behind his back, twisting an innocent conversation I had with a male coworker into something it wasn't. Some people believed him, and I lost a few friends in the process. It hurt, but it also showed me who my true friends were. The hardest part has been dealing with the loneliness. After 5 years of being part of a couple, I'm struggling to adjust to single life. Our apartment feels too big and empty without Maurice and his things. I've had moments of weakness where I've considered calling him, but I remind myself of all the pain he caused. I'm taking it one day at a time. I've thrown myself into work, taking on extra projects to keep my mind occupied. I've also started reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with during my relationship. Last weekend, I met up with my college roommate whom I hadn't seen in years. We spent the day catching up, and it felt good to laugh and reminisce about simpler times. I'm not ready to date yet, but I'm slowly starting to feel like myself again. I've started a journal to process my feelings and have been going to a weekly yoga class to help manage my stress and anxiety. There are still tough moments. Last night, I found one of Maurice's old t-shirts that had been missed when we were packing up his things. The familiar scent brought back a flood of memories, both good and bad. I cried for the first time in weeks, mourning not just the end of my relationship, but the future I thought I was going to have. I still have a lot of healing to do, but I know I made the right decision. Thank you again to everyone who supported me and gave me the courage to stand up for myself. Your words have been a lifeline during this difficult time. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments. Life has been a roller coaster, but I'm slowly finding my footing. About a month ago, I ran into Liberty, Maurice's ex-girlfriend, at a local coffee shop. I was hesitant to talk to her, but she approached me and asked if we could chat. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Liberty revealed that Maurice had been lying to both of us for years. While he was with me, he had been telling Liberty that we were on the verge of breaking up and that he still had feelings for her. She showed me messages where Maurice had made plans to meet up with her, claiming he was going on business trips when he was actually spending time with her. I was shocked and hurt all over again. It felt like every time I thought I knew the full extent of Maurice's betrayal, another layer was revealed. Liberty apologized for her part in the situation, saying she had no idea the extent of Maurice's lies. We ended up talking for hours, sharing our experiences and finding a strange sense of camaraderie in our shared pain. Liberty told me about her history with Maurice. They had dated in college and had what she described as a tumultuous relationship. Maurice would frequently break up with her, only to come back weeks later swearing he had changed. This pattern continued even after Maurice and I got together. Liberty admitted that she had always hoped Maurice would leave me and come back to her for good. Hearing her side of the story made me realize how skilled Maurice was at manipulating people's emotions. On a more positive note, I've been focusing on rebuilding my life. I started taking a photography class, something I've always wanted to do but never found the time for when I was with Maurice. It's been therapeutic, allowing me to see the world through a new lens, pun intended. I've even started an Instagram account to share my photos, reclaiming the platform that was once a source of pain. My sister Mia has been my rock through all of this. She's been staying with me more often, and we've grown even closer. She encouraged me to redecorate the apartment, saying it needed to feel like my space, not a reminder of my life with Maurice. We spent a weekend painting the walls, rearranging furniture, and hanging new artwork. It was exhausting but cathartic. Mia also convinced me to adopt a cat from the local shelter. I was hesitant at first, worried about how Buddy would react, but they've become fast friends. Having a new furry companion has helped fill some of the emptiness in the apartment. Last week, I received a letter from Maurice. He wrote that he was sorry for everything and that he was getting help for his issues. He mentioned that he had started seeing a therapist regularly and was working on understanding his fear of commitment. Part of me wanted to believe him, but I reminded myself of all the times he had made similar promises. I decided not to respond. I'm still not ready to date, but I'm learning to enjoy my own company. I've started a journal to process my feelings and have been spending more time with my girlfriends. We've had movie nights, wine tastings, and even took a weekend trip to the beach. It feels good to laugh and have fun without constantly worrying about what Maurice is doing. There are still tough days. Sometimes I miss the familiarity of being in a relationship, of having someone to come home to. But then I remember the anxiety and pain of constantly wondering if I was being lied to, and I know I'm better off now. I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on healing and rediscovering who I am outside of a relationship. Thank you all for your continued support and kind words. It means more than you know. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this chapter of my life. The biggest news is that I've moved to a new city for a job opportunity. After everything that happened, I felt like I needed a fresh start. It was a scary decision, but it's turned out to be exactly what I needed. The new job is challenging but rewarding, and I'm slowly making new friends. The decision to move wasn't easy. I agonized over it for weeks, worried about leaving behind my support system and the comfort of familiarity. But when the opportunity came up to lead a new project at a prestigious marketing firm in Chicago, I knew I had to take it. Mia was incredibly supportive, helping me pack up my apartment and even driving with me to Chicago to help me get settled. Before I left, I had one last encounter with Maurice. We ran into each other at a mutual friend's wedding. It was awkward at first, but we managed to have a civil conversation. Maurice apologized again for his behavior and told me he was still in therapy. He looked different somehow, more grounded, less like the charming but unstable person I had known. We talked about our relationship and the mistakes we both made. While it didn't erase the pain he had caused, it did provide some closure. I wished him well but made it clear that we could never be more than acquaintances. My sister Mia visited me last month, and it was great to show her around my new city. We explored the Art Institute, took an architecture boat tour, and indulged in deep dish pizza. One night, over a bottle of wine, we had a heart-to-heart about relationships and our family. Mia confessed that my experience with Maurice had made her more cautious in her own dating life. We talked about our parents' near divorce and how it affected our views on relationships. It was a healing conversation for both of us, bringing us even closer. I've started dating again, casually. I'm taking things slow and being upfront about my past experiences. It's been nice to meet new people without the pressure of jumping into a serious relationship. I've had a few coffee dates and even went to a concert with a guy from work. While none of these have turned into anything serious, it's helped me regain confidence in myself. My new job has been keeping me busy. I'm leading a team on a major campaign for a well-known tech company, and it's been both challenging and exciting. The long hours and intense work have been a welcome distraction, helping me focus on my career rather than dwelling on the past. I've also been continuing with my photography hobby. Chicago has provided endless inspiration, from the stunning architecture to the vibrant street scenes. I've even had a few of my photos featured in a local gallery's exhibition for emerging artists. It was a small thing, but it felt like a huge personal victory. Buddy has adjusted well to city life. We go for long walks along Lake Michigan, and he's become a regular at the local dog park. Having him with me has made the transition to a new city much easier. He's a constant reminder of the good things I brought with me from my old life. Looking back, I can see how much I've grown from this experience. I've learned to trust my instincts and to value myself more. I no longer feel like I need to be in a relationship to be complete. I'm more assertive in setting boundaries, both in my personal and professional life. That's not to say everything is perfect. There are still days when I feel lonely or doubt my decisions. Sometimes I catch myself wondering what life would be like if things had worked out with Maurice. But these moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. I recently had a conversation with my mom that I think illustrates how far I've come. She called to check in, as she often does, and asked if I was seeing anyone. In the past, I might have felt pressured or defensive. Instead, I calmly explained that I'm focusing on myself right now and that I'm happy with where I am in life. To my surprise, she understood and even expressed pride in how I've handled everything. To anyone going through a similar situation, know that it does get better. It's not easy, and there will be days when you feel like you're taking steps backward, but keep pushing forward. You're stronger than you know. Don't be afraid to lean on your support system, but also don't be afraid to stand on your own. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. Your support and advice have been invaluable. I'm closing this chapter of my life with hope for the future and gratitude for the lessons I've learned along the way. While I can't predict what the future holds, I know that I'm better equipped to face it now. Here's to new beginnings and the strength we find in ourselves when we need it most.